All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed say no. Approve and correct minutes from the November 12th, 2014 regular meeting. I'll make a motion that we accept the minutes from the November 12th, 2014 regular meeting. Second by Calla. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed say no. Okay, financial reports. We have the October 2014 Treasurer's Report and the balance sheet. Anybody see any questions on either of them?
The only piece would have been in the negative 19,000 as the project leads away. We are going to adjust our budgets to make that so it won't be negative. We knew that. We're trying to raise as much of it as we can, but I also knew that we would probably have to put some district dollars into it. So
Okay.
we'll be able to match in our budget.
Okay.
Motion approved.
I have a motion from David to approve the financial reports.
Second.
A second by Cheryl. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Okay, audit and approval of bills.
Mark did look at the bills, and all the bills are appropriate. There were a few pieces on the stadium in there, but again, we had money coming in before the money went out. So did take a look at those to make sure that was it, but Mark did take a look at the bills.
Okay. I'll make a motion that we approve the bills. Second by Lou. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed say no. Okay, nothing on the consent agenda. We're now to business. Review and consider approval of 2014-15 school year contract with J. Colton Incorporated Computer Network Services.
Jay Colton is our service, and it's really Jim Decker who provides a service for our network operation. He keeps it up and running, makes all the adjustments, all the updates, all those types of things. Last year, his contract was for $49,500. This year, we're looking at reducing it down to $49,400. But in the past, he has been contracted for 1,000 hours. He just gets paid per hour. This year, he'd be reducing that down to 950 hours. I did go back and check in the last 4 years, he has not reached 900 hours on the number of hours that we have paid him for. So if he works less hours, he doesn't get as much. He does not get the $49,400 if he works less than 950 hours. It does increase his per hour wage, but I will tell you that we're still significantly below what Eden Valley Watkins is paying him per hour. So they've got him for the same number of hours as he does us. Reason that he's reducing it is just because he's looking forward to retirement and wants to start putting probably less hours. But like I said, he hadn't reached 900 hours last 4 years. Jim does, I would tell you this, Jim is very frugal. He does, I believe, provide us with hours that he does not charge us back for.
So is it basically an hourly contract?
It's an hourly contract.
So
Really.
it's 49.4.
It would be if he puts in all 950 hours, that's what the contract would come to.
You just do the math.
If he works less, then he would get paid less. And like I said, he's been in the 880 range for the last 4 years. And I do have that if anybody's interested. The highest he's done in the last 4 years was 880 per hours. And we, yeah, go ahead, Kelly.
Go ahead.
Yeah, and we do compare. We do need to stay somewhat, I mean, Eden Valley, like I said, is paying him significantly more than my opinion per hour.
And I'll second the motion.
Okay, so we have a motion from Kella to approve the contract, and we have a second from Deb. Any further discussion? Do we have anything from the public? Okay. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed say no. Okay, nothing in personnel, informational reports. So we start with Lou on the WCED board meeting.
The board met November 20th, last Monday. We met in Melrose. And then after approving the balance sheet and bills payable, we listened to the audit report. And then Lori, the Piggott, I believe that's how you pronounce it. Executive director went over the job duties of Doug Milloway, who was the past executive director, and now he's in another role for the next 2 years. I think we explained that the last meeting we had. And then Tara McClellan, they went over her work duties, and she went over her own. And the update was given on the school psychologist for the 15th year, 2015-2016. And we were given info on a maternity leave. And then the count at the Beacon, as it is now, is 13 students, and ALC is 28. And our next meeting, I believe, is at January 20th. And that'll be in Stock Center at 8 o'clock in the morning. We're going to go over and look at the new setup they have for the Beacon program and review that. And that is it.
Okay.
Um,
Are they gonna be technology?
Yeah, I can be
Number two
technology.
is technology and,
We did meet, the technology committee did meet, and the main purpose of the meeting is to start to talk about planning the use of the technology dollars that question number one did provide us for this year. We want to make sure that our infrastructure and where we place materials is appropriate, so they're going back to the school and checking if they're going to put so many portable devices in this area, for instance, will our web service handle it? Do we have the points of access so they can get on the internet and do those types of things? So it's really going back to the school, and then it'll come back to us as a technology committee, and we'll start to work with the budget that we've been provided from the community. It doesn't do us any good to provide tablets in a certain area if it's not accessible. So we're looking at that first. And then also we'll start to plan for the technology levy. So that's the other purpose that we had met to start that process, so that we can talk about putting a plan in place. So very much follow it, and we're very open and clear to the community on what that plan looks like and where the budget dollars are going to go. That was the main part of that meeting.
okay. Then next would be the facility committee.
Facility committee meeting, we met last week. Part of the piece was just to talk about question number one, passing, and to start talking about where we're going with that. And at this time, we're in the process of getting some quotes, particularly for the elementary ECOs and the work with you. We do want to get a couple quotes to make sure that we're getting the best bang for the buck for that. So we've got a company coming in tomorrow also to look at that project and see if they can give us a better quote than what Ewell did. So we'll be talking about that. We're on a very tight timeline for that. We'll need to get an extension. We've asked for an extension because the way it's stretched out and the way the election was is that we're technically by December 19th, we're supposed to have those projects done. Ewell and Excel are very much aware of that, of the timeline. I asked for an extension way back when we were doing it. They indicated that they would give it to us. I believe they will, but now we need to find out and give them a drop-dead timeline for who's doing it and when it's going to be completed. The high school is a little bit better than that. It was February that we would have it. Part of the problem is that we'll need to get some bids on that because it's over $100,000 for that project. So I'll be working with either an architect or Artie Morton, whoever's the most suitable, or another group, whichever one I find that's suitable for that, to help me put that bidding process together. So we can do that. In the meantime, we're looking at carpet and other things that will be going with question number one. I did mention to the facilities committee that if somebody's really interested in a piece of that, they can certainly give me a call and I'll work with them and keep them upgraded, and I may call on expertise in that committee. But I'll also be sending out email updates just so that they're aware and we keep them in the loop on this thing. The second piece of that meeting was question number two, which became much more interesting to discussion, and that really dealt with the fact that question number one failed, or question number two failed, and now what do we do with question number two? The option certainly would be not to recommend going back to the board for a project, or recommending going back to the board for a project. Is the project going to change? We talked about a number of different things, even to the point where the discussion came up from community that do we want to look at closing our elementary school and make it a different type of project and bringing it over. I did look at that, I did talk to Ari Morton just to come up with a quick estimate on that would be. He figured probably 185 to 195 a square foot. The building is 89,000 square feet or so. Because part of the problem with just building a new building at this point is that there's really no space. Most places that bring in a building or do a new building and close a building, it's because they have either space in a new building or class size have gotten, the numbers have gotten so low that there's space in the building that you're moving into, and then you build another kind of addition to take care of that. If we were to go down the road of doing a new elementary school, part of the problem becomes that you have to, right now, except for one classroom, we're full at the elementary school. So you virtually have to build that same size of building and bring it over here. The problem then becomes that once you bring it over here, if our class enrollment continues to drop, and we probably have 1 or 2 classrooms over here, so you don't gain a lot of space. But part of the problem is that now if you build the new building over here, which some people have talked to me about that too, then you have a new building over here, but if our class sizes continue to drop, now you have a new building that is also going to have additional space as the enrollment goes down. You know, my original thoughts is that that may happen. I'm just not sure that now is the time, just because we don't gain anything by really virtually moving them over here right now. Certainly it's a decision by the board on where we go, and one of my questions is, does the board want me to pursue that? I'm not sure if we even have the land here. I didn't get a chance to talk with MDE to see if there's minimum requirements that we have to have for the land. We have taken a look at our airport flyover piece, and we have to get some clarifications on what does that mean, what can we put under there, can we put fields under there, for instance? Because you'd have to build on one side of the building or the other, which is either going to take parking lots and move it towards the reserve center, or you move it towards the FFA plot area, but then you very quickly run into the flyover area, and I don't think we can have any kind of structure under there, but you might be able to have playing fields under there. You wouldn't be able to put lights, I think, but you might be able to do 5 classes, that type of thing. So we'd have to get clarifications on that. But overall, from my feeling, it's just that that building right now is that size. If we waited a number of years before you look at that option, then you have less classrooms full here, less classrooms full at the elementary. If you make it, you don't have to build as big a facility, of which if the enrollment keeps going down, you're still going to have to start to get empty rooms. So I think it's all about timing for that piece. I know
So what
it's,
you're saying is that you think the trigger for us to pursue that potentially is if the number of school students changes dramatically?
well, if the number goes down, you start to have more classrooms open in both buildings. Conceivably, if you lose the same in both buildings. If you lose 5 classrooms here and you lose 5 classrooms there, you don't have to build as new or as big of a new facility at a time when enrollment's going down. As far as the gym project, in the end, you're going to have to build gym space. If the purpose of the first project was to get rid of some of the problems we talked about and some of the issues, that space has to be built anyway, and if you bring the elementary school over anyway, you're going to have additional gym space regardless. So if you build the new gyms first and then you wait, you have not lost anything at that point because you need the gym space anyway. But it's really up to the board on where they want to proceed with this. At the end of the meeting, the facilities committee did vote unanimously to move the project on, a project. They didn't specify the same project that allowed the facility committee or the board to change it if they wanted to, or the facility committee to come back and change it, and the recommendation would be to do it at the next November election. The talk about the elementary school, just, that's something that you have to decide first. I would hate to throw money towards elementary school if in the end the board's decision was to go for a new elementary building. Then I would want to probably not spend any more dollars than I have to on that building, because if I don't think you're necessarily going to get a lot of money for the building. If it's in a residential area, I don't know if the city would classify it as industrial in a residential area. Probably not, I would guess. There's not any residential building going on right now, at least not a lot that I see. So I'm not sure you would get, it'd be a big asset to have that property in that particular place. Plus, I am concerned about the acreage, and we'd have to do some more checking on that. And certainly, if we go with a new building, you're not gonna hear me recommend that we do that project next year. There, you know, I talked about building a new gym, that's one thing. Building a new building of any size, particularly because you're building it about the same size that you have, that's a completely different animal altogether. I would not only say I wouldn't recommend it next year, I probably wouldn't recommend it the year after that. That would take some planning. You're just not gonna build that. There's a lot of things that you'd have to talk about, a lot of issues you'd have to deal with. Building's much different than a gym.
Well, that come up. I mean, what was the?
I think it was a community member that brought it up, but at the same time, you know, these are the times when I think those questions do need to come up. Because if it's going to happen, now is the time to have that discussion, before you bring it to vote on in November. You know, because if we're gonna go down that road, now would be the time, rather than start pushing towards the other project in November, and then all of a sudden the idea comes up and you're going, now what do we do? So from my point of view, it's a good point to discuss. All options should be looked at. Certainly some people have talked to me about different configurations for it if we built a gym. Those have already come up. There's been discussion about, do we want to keep it the same facility as before? Do you want to make it just a practice facility versus a competition type of facility? So now is the time to bring those up. Now is the time to get input. The Facilities Committee also brought up strategic planning. We might want to work this at the same time. A possible survey that we could do for the strategic planning and also include some facility questions in that were brought up. Certainly we have community meetings to get more input from the community. My only concern about that is that other than probably one meeting, we didn't get a lot of attendance when I had the community meetings before. That doesn't mean we shouldn't have them. You know, because we want to get as much input as we can as this piece goes. We have a little bit of time now. But I can say that I'm already amazed that we're in December next week. This year will disappear very quickly, even more time. So I think we have to move forward as quickly as we can. In the end, the board makes that decision.
So, a series of things. You don't believe that we're at the trigger point to look at the other school?
It would be
At
hard.
the same time,
It would be hard for me to say move the same size of building over here.
at the same time, we are beginning strategic planning, which is going to incorporate maybe methods or our thoughts of how we make the school grow. Because we as a board, I think we need to take action on that. I know it looks like it's sometimes insurmountable, but we have to do something. We can't let the school population decline. So that's got to work in.
Certainly that would be part of the strategic plan process.
And so that's going at the same time. And then your thoughts on the public meeting? So we should have a few of those. If the public.
I have no issues having them and giving them the opportunity to give us their opinion and input on why they think it's a good project, why they think it's a bad project. Is there different ways to configure it that make them better? They even bring up the fact, well, do we want a new elementary school, and give their opinion on that. So if we go down that road, I just need to set those meetings fairly quickly because, again, December will disappear very quickly. I'm meeting with my administrative team on Monday of next week to start the strategic plan, at least develop the overall plan, and then I'll bring that forward to the board and get their opinion on it. I'm against probably bringing in other consultants just because of the cost. Certainly be easier for me, but I'm going to look for the most cost-efficient way that I can do it. And this is not an action thing in anything, it's just a point of discussion.
Some of this stuff.
Well,
Because if we're gonna move forward, you're asking us for a directive, we should give you.
Well, and my suggestion would be, a report time is not a time, at least in my opinion, for the board to have a big discussion. The community doesn't know that I'm bringing this up, I'm just reporting on that, but they don't know that there's a discussion here. My piece would be that the board could certainly say if they want to have a good discussion about it, I'll put on an agenda that isn't very far away from now. That way any community members can see it and they know it's coming up and they can come to the meeting and give us their input if they want, because it'll be down under a business piece.
Okay.
Yep.
I think that would be a good idea.
Yeah, again, discussion should be agenda items on the board. This is more of a report, just fill in and answer any questions. Had a couple other board members there. Anything that you'd like to add in addition to what I kind of mentioned?
No, I think that,
Well,
the discussion went on, there was a lot more discussion than I thought there would be.
Yeah, there was quite a bit of discussion on that. And some input from committee members. Otherwise, I'm hearing put it on next Tuesday's agenda. Okay. I will do that. Enrollment's kind of stable right now. We had lost some, but we've gained some now back, and coming up in this next couple weeks, we're gaining some. So I'll give a report next week. I want to add those new students before I give the report, so I'll talk about that at our next meeting. I'm hoping to have that. There's an ASEGC boys basketball game tonight. Students had a blood drive today, which was really great. It was nice to see all those students out there contributing and really serving the communities by donating blood. It was really a nice thing. The choir and the band group have headed for New York, so I don't envy their bus ride, but they're on their way. Yeah, it'll be a little bit of traveling. Credit card payment, it's not working. There's some glitches that we started to work through. We're not going to change anything this year because we paid for those services. We're going to make it through this year, but at the same time, we are going to start evaluating whether this is the one that we want to stay with. Matt has some issues because although we're doing it for lunch accounts, Matt also uses the same piece for a lot of what he does, and he's got some issues also. I think I'd rather keep this one seamless piece, but we'll reevaluate it. Also, about mid-year or so, I'll give you a report, because remember, we're eating the amount of that right now. We're not adding that to the lunch count numbers, or what we're charging people, so I'll just let the board kind of know where we're at with that and how much it's cost us. It very well may be worth every penny that we're paying, because it's like we don't have to talk to people about, getting caught up on that, but I do want to set a meeting with the policy committee, because we do need to settle some things with our lunch policy and a few other policies. Because right now, the dollars are going up for people who are behind on their payments. And I think the policy committee will need to have a discussion about that, so I'm going to set that up. Probably send an email out tomorrow just getting some dates, and then I'll set that up, and there's some other policies we need to talk about. Parent-teacher conferences tonight and tomorrow. I'm going to hand out one other thing for you today, and again, we can either put this on as an agenda item, or you can give me feedback. This is a new just financial report that I want you to just take a look at and give feedback. It did come from a board member. Bruce kind of talked about it a little bit and said, how about this report? So just take a look at it and see if it's something you want. It could either take the place of a report, it could not be a report that the board is interested in, or it could just be an additional report that the board would look at. And I'm not looking for any decision, this is just one, really it's about, does the board want this report or not want this report?
Just every month, you mean?
It'd be at every board meeting.
Every board meeting?
Yeah, it'd just be either an additional report, or if you wanted to get rid of a report that hasn't been effective for the board, then you could look at that also. But I think just take a look at it. I'll bring it up. I don't think you necessarily need to have a motion, although I'll check into that. I think it's just a matter of whether the board wants it or doesn't want it.
How much extra work is that?
No, I think Joan can pull this one right off our system.
It's our expenditure report, just expanded.
Yep.
So it's what we already have, and it comes right off the system. It doesn't transfer into anybody. It is 100% off the system. You will notice that the total expenses there are just everything right from the system. Where the PMA report, the information's done outside.
So it's just a matter of whether we want to add this. I'll check to see. My feeling would be if I need to put it on as a board agenda, I'll put it on and you guys can discuss it and make a determination on adding it. I'm just not sure that this is something that I need a motion from, as much as if this is helpful to the board. We start putting copies on there, the community gets copies then, and it's as simple as that. Again, no action today, it's just a report piece. And And with that, that's all I have.
Any other sharing amongst the board? Any other questions? I have just one thing. If you get a chance, drive by the new stadium out there. A lot of that has been finished. It's looking really good for everybody to take. We're in now winter, but they got a lot of stuff done this fall. That's looking really nice.
And one last thing, I do want to mention this again, because I continue to get some people who say, they think that we paid for that stadium. I think that any school district that has the option to get about $1 million stadium for $25,000, I think that's a pretty good deal, and that's where we're at with that stadium. The community and the FEMA grant will have paid for everything in that stadium, other than the $25,000 that the district has contributed to that stadium. In the end, that's what we'll have contributed. I think it's good bang for the buck.
Mhm. Anything else? Or will entertain a motion to adjourn?
Second.
Okay, I'll make the motion, who is seconded? Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, say no.
Bruce, it even looks good on the bypass as you're coming by to see it.
It looks wonderful.
Yeah, you can, it's pretty impressive.
It was